Was that ball in or was that ball out?
I don't know, in or out? That's a question.
We're going to cover that today in our video.
We have a question from Doris from New York City, and she asks, what's the rule on calling the ball out in pickleball?
That's a good question because the rule book has some specifics. Do you ever wonder if your opponent is really calling it fairly? If the ball is in or out? Most people don't know.
Yeah, we've been there. We've had our fair share of interesting calls over the years on the court.
That was out.
That was in.
That was out.
It was in. How could you call that ball like that?
In today's video, we're diving into the do's and don'ts of making an out call in pickleball. We'll break down how to keep your calls fair, consistent, and drama-free.
Making the right call isn't just about winning or losing. It's about keeping the game fun and fair for everyone.
And if we're competitive, how about fierce and fair?
I like that. I'm a fierce competitor, but I'm fair first.
I think we got that from Billie Jean King.
Absolutely.
Tip number 1, when the ball touches the line, it is good. Even a fraction of it, it is in.
Except for the kitchen line on the serve. On the serve, if it hits the kitchen line or the non-volley zone line, it's actually out.
Because the line is part of the non-volley zone. You can see it on courts that have 2 different colors and no actual white lines or painted lines. Tip number 2, making the call.
In recreational play, the players on the receiving team make the call out. So if you're returning, it's your call.
Basically, whichever side of the court the ball bounces on, that team makes the call. The easiest way to communicate that is with a hand signal. This means out.
Out.
In doubles, either partner can call it. But here's the thing. If you're not sure, it's good.
The ball is in. So if you're not 100% certain, the benefit goes to your opponent.
And I think it's much better than playing the point over. There might be circumstances where that happens, but if you can't make the call, hand it over to your opponent. Be a good sport. Tip number 3, timing your call. Timing is the key. Make the call as soon as the ball lands, no hesitation. Don't wait to see if your shot went in the net or over the net or out of bounds. Make the call immediately.
If it takes too long, it's like waiting to call shotgun. You lose the right to sit in the front seat.
That's a good one. Make your call immediate. It's the fair way to play. Tip number 4, hand signal.
This means out. This is it.
This means good. This is it. Very simple. Along with your words, if you're playing on a busy street nearby where we're playing right now, it's hard to hear. If you aren't facing the opponent, they can't hear you all the time, but they can see your hand go in the air for out, and they can see your hand go flat for safe. Hand signal and verbal is the best way to make the call. If you don't say anything at all,
it's assumed it's in. If your opponents don't hear or see you make the call, they can assume that it is good. So make the call loud. Be proud of that call. It's out, but make sure you're 100%.
Tip 5, good sportsmanship. After a match is over, there is known for the paddle tip, or in this case, it would be ball and paddle. Make some kind of connection with your opponent and your partner. Show them that you value good sportsmanship.
And as Mom said, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
We teach our students to say 2 things. One is good game or good match, and the other one is thank you. Even if you have to whisper it and you have tears in your eyes because you lost a real close one. Those 2 things are very important for everyone's sake. Be a good sport.
There's always next time.
Exactly. And remember, line calls are supposed to be fair and keep the game friendly. No point is worth the tension over a bad call.
So next time when you're out on the court, keep these tips in mind. And we promise your games will be more fun and fair.
Liners are good. Call it out with a hand signal.
Let's see what the USA Pickleball official rulebook for 2024 says about line calls. 6A. A served ball that clears the non-volley zone and its lines and lands in the correct service court or any correct service court line is in. Any other ball in play that lands in the court or touches any court line is in. 6B. A ball contacting the playing surface completely outside of the court is out. A served ball that lands in the opponent's non-volley zone, including on the non-volley zone lines, is out. 6C, Code of Ethics for Line Calling. Pickleball is played according to specific rules. It also requires a code of ethics for line calling responsibilities when performed by players. The line calling responsibility of players are different from those assigned to referees or line judges. The officials make impartial judgment calls with all players' interests in mind. The player, when assigned line calling duties, must strive for accuracy and operate under the principle that all questionable calls must be resolved in favor of the opponent. The basic elements are 6C1. Players are responsible for calling the lines on their end of the court, excluding short serves, service foot faults, and all non-volley zone faults, if being called by a referee. If a player makes an initial line call and then asks for either opponent or the referee's opinion, if the opponent or referee can make a clear in or out call, the clear call will stand. If no clear call can be made, the initial line call by the player will stand. A call made by the opponent can be appealed to the referee for a final in or out decision. 6C2. Players' only call is the center line on the serve in matches that have line judges. 6C3. The opponent gets the benefit of the doubt on line calls made. Any ball that cannot be called out will be considered in. A player cannot claim a replay because the ball was not seen or there is uncertainty. A player who does not make the call may appeal to the referee to make the call if they did not clearly see the ball land. If the referee is unable to make the call, the ball is in. The moment the receiving player team appeals to the referee, they lose their right to make any subsequent in or out call for that rally.
Rule 6C4.
Spectators should not be consulted on any line call. 6C5. A player or team may ask the opponent's opinion to make the line call on the player's end of the court. If requested and the opponent makes a clear in or out call, it must be accepted. If the opponents cannot make a clear in or out call, then the ball is ruled as being in on the receiving team. The moment the receiving player's team asks for the opponent's opinion, they lose their right to make any subsequent in or out call for that rally. The receiving team or player may also appeal to the referee to make a clear call. If the referee cannot make a clear call, the outcome of the opponent's ruling will stand. 6C6. Players shall not call a ball out unless they can clearly see a space between the line and the ball as it hits the ground. 6C7. All out calls must be made prior to the ball being hit by the opponent or before the ball becomes dead. 6C8. In doubles play, if one player calls the ball out and the partner calls it in, then doubt exists and the team's call will be in. Any player may appeal a call to the referee. If the referee did not see the ball is considered in. 6C9. Out calls must be promptly signaled by voice and or hand signals. 6C10. While the ball is in the air, if a player yells out, no, bounce it, or any other words to communicate to their partner that the ball may be out, it shall be considered player communication only and not considered a line call. 6C11. An out call made after the ball bounces is a line call. The ball is dead and the play shall stop. If, upon appeal, the referee overrules any type of out call, it is a fault against the player or team that made the out call. The exception: if the match has line judges, the baseline and sideline judges are responsible for the call. 6C12. After the completion of a rally, players may overrule a partner's line call, their own call, an officiating team's call, or an opponent's in call to their own disadvantage. Best advice is get a rule book.